Hey, good morning, everyone. First off, I want to thank everyone for taking some time out of their day to attend our session on intelligent automation. My name is John Swisher. I manage our sales and development efforts here at GearWorks, and with me I have Zach Tabor, manager of our product team, and Matt Pope, one of our product engineers and resident RPA guru. And we're here today to talk to you about, again, intelligent automation, specifically the use of RPA within appeals and grievances. Now, you may be thinking, hey, this may be a little early for questions. If we go to the next slide, it probably is. But we're trying something different, and I want to just remind everyone that you can ask questions via the chat feature at any time during the webinar. So, don't feel the need to wait till the very end to ask your questions. I'll be monitoring this throughout the presentation, and we'll be answering those as we receive them. If it's better suited for the end, we'll do that. But again, please, ask them as you think of them. Now, here's what I want everyone to think of. I want everyone to challenge themselves to investigate your own processes. And I hope by the end of this webinar, you're walking out empowered to identify processes ripe for RPA, have a little bit of knowledge on how to interrogate those processes, and some of the things to watch out for as we're going through that process. So we'll get into it. Matt, if you could go back one slide. I just want to talk about the agenda real quick. First, we're just going to talk quickly about what RPA is. And then Zach is going to highlight the process we took to investigate and build out this concept. And then lastly, Matt's going to be walking us through a demonstration of those robots in action. So with that being said, what is RPA? And more often than not, it really comes down to mimicking human interaction. In the demonstration that you'll see shortly, the robots are performing the same tasks that a human would within a web portal as part of their everyday work, right? But the robot's doing it behind the scenes. It's doing it faster. It's doing it more accurately, and all the while, it's allowing those humans that were doing that activity before. It's allowing them to focus on higher value objectives, priorities, and tasks, right? So, okay, is that the only thing that RPA can be used for entering data into a web portal? And the answer is absolutely not. And up on the screen here are just a quick couple of items that I want to make sure I'm touching on to kind of start getting those creative juices flowing for everyone. And the first one in the top left is that opening of mail attachments. So Matt is going to talk about kicking off a robot based on user interaction, but sometimes we can kick these robots off based off of an incoming email. So if we think about, hey, that email is triggering us to go and check on something, and we tell that bot to watch for emails with certain expressions in them, or keywords, or from a certain sender has those values in the subject, that bot is then trained to open up that email, evaluate and interrogate that email. So if you think about in the bottom left, executing if-then decisions. So again, that we can configure those bots to say, based on the context, hey, this is just an update, we'll copy that and put it on the case, or hey, you need to go log into the case and pull down a decision or add additional information. So that's something a bot can do that we may not be showing today, but again, just to get everyone thinking about the different types of things we can take advantage of for robots, it's useful, right? So it will open that email, evaluate it, and then potentially automatically navigate out to a portal behind the scenes, pull down decision information, download documents, take screenshots, etc. So if you think about opening mail attachments, if-then statements, and the last one I want to bring up out of this list, and believe me, this is not the full list, is integrating two systems, right? So again, in this demonstration, you're going to see two different systems integrating, not under the same platform, not even under the same domain, right? A complete third party. So all the way from there to, maybe you have a legacy homegrown app that does not have an API built into it, but it contains very important data to your organization. This could be an excellent case for RPA, either making updates in that legacy system or using data from that legacy system to update related data elsewhere, or using it to evaluate if-then statements. So I just wanted to kind of touch base on those items and again, get those creative juices flowing before we started to walk through the actual process and the demonstration. But what Zach's going to do now is kind of walk you through the CureWorks process of identifying that need, investigating and building out robots for this particular use case.
Perfect, thanks, John. So now that we know what RPA is, now we want to get into what was the use case that we used RPA with the appeals and grievances solution. But before we actually dive into that, I want to go over a few terms with you guys, just to make sure that we're on the same page when I'm going through the actual use case or the solution. So when I say case, and I'll be saying case a lot throughout this, the case is an appeal or grievance that we're talking about inside the CureWorks appeals and grievance solution. And then an analyst is that end user who's actually working that case in the CureWorks appeals and grievance solution. A bot is a bot that's going to complete those tasks and process in an automated fashion that John was just describing. And then lastly, the IRO case, told you to be saying case quite a bit. IRO case is the external review case that's housed within that IRO portal. So now that we've gone over these terms, let's go over the actual use case that we saw a good fit within A&G and RPA. So within our A&G solution, we guide the end user in actually completing an appeals and grievances case. However, there is a gap with guiding the end user and then having the end user pick up that work and actually doing work outside of the appeals and grievance solution. And that gap was actually taking data and that documents that existed in the appeals and grievance solution, and then bringing it over and creating an IRO case in the IRO's portal and bringing over those data and documents to create that IRO case so the IRO can make a decision on that case and get it back to that organization. So a lot of work has to be done for an actual analyst or end user to complete that. First, they're going to have to compile that case information. And again, with the CureWorks appeals and grievance solution, it's kind of nice because we're guiding them through that to get that case information, but they actually have to now take that case information, get it out of the appeals and grievance solution, and then into the IRO portal. So they actually have to have two screens open. They log into the IRO portal. They have their IRO portal open on one screen, the case in the appeals and grievance solution open another, and they're typing in the data, creating the case on the IRO portal. And not just the data, they're also actually extracting any documents that they've gathered in the CureWorks appeals and grievances case, exporting those documents out and getting them into the IRO portal. So a lot of work that the analyst has to do just to compile that data and documents and then get it over to the portal. Once they've done that, now they can actually submit that IRO case on the IRO portal, and now they're going to wait for a decision. But as they're waiting for a decision, they might want to log back into the portal, check the IRO status, see if they actually need any additional information, or see where they are in completing that specific IRO case. Now, when the IRO case is complete, a lot of IRO portals will send you a notification, say we have made a decision on your case. You can go look at the decision and any documentation that we have generated. So they can log back into the portal again, check the decision of the case, check any of those documents, but now they have to do the opposite and take that decision or those documents, extract them out from the IRO portal, and then update them into the CureWorks appeals and grievance solution and update that case information. So a lot of work that the analyst has to do and a lot of heavy lifting they have to do to get that data from CureWorks solution to the IRO portal, and then back from the IRO portal to the CureWorks solution. So a lot of, even just talking about it makes me tired. I can imagine what the analyst actually is actually going through. So we actually saw a great benefit with RPA and introducing RPA to close that gap. So now all the analyst has to do when the case is ready for external review or to be sent to the IRO, all they have to do is trigger that IRO bot, and then that bot is going to perform all those tasks that I just talked about before, and they're going to complete all that work for us. So they'll be able to take that data, create that IRO case, take that data, bring it over to the IRO case, check the status to see when that IRO case is complete, and when it is, be able to update that case information and then let the analyst know to trigger the next steps for them to close out that specific case within the CureWorks Appeals and Grievances solution. So with all that being said, what I want to do is go over a high-level 10,000-foot view of what you're going to see within Matt's demonstration as what the bot is actually doing for us. So as the appeal requires external review, are we getting ready to send it to the IRO? The analyst is basically just going to start or trigger that bot like we saw on the last slide, and then that bot is going to go through various steps to complete that submitting that IRO case in an automated fashion. So the bot will be able to launch the web browser, enter in the IRO's URL within that web browser to access the portal. The bot can enter their credentials into the portal, and then once they're in the portal, they're going to be able to create that new IRO case within the portal. And then the bot's able to take that data from your CureWorks Appeals and Grievance solution, automatically fill out that case within the portal, and upload any documents that are required for that specific IRO case. And then the bot is going to submit that case in the portal. And then what we're going to do is once that case is submitted, that case is going to have a case number in the IRO portal. So we're going to be able to, the bot's going to be able to take that case number and store it back into OnBase. So we have a link between the two cases, the case in the CureWorks solution and the case in the IRO portal. So we know what case is being referenced within that IRO portal. And then lastly, we can update the OnBase case or the case in the CureWorks solution to let the analyst know that we are waiting. We've submitted the case in the portal and we're awaiting that external review decision.
Hey, Zach, this question came through a little bit ago, but I figured I'd wait till now to answer it because it's timely. So before I was talking about opening up mail attachments, and I also talked about timers, and now on the screen we have timer fires. The question is, do we have to use either the timer or mail? Are we limited to those? Can we use both? What are our options for triggering a robot?
Yeah, so it's up to the organization how they want to do that, but there are various options that can be done. So if you'd rather just have it be kind of one street and the robot will only check those mail things to say, oh, we got a mail, the bot's going to interrogate that mail and then go say, okay, I know this case is complete. I'm going to go get that information. Or if you want the bot to actually run off a timer, which we're going to get here in a second, they can actually run off a timer to go check those cases on a daily, hourly, however many times we want to run those, to go check that case status and then bring that information back. So both options are available for that bot.
Perfect. Thanks, Zach.
Yep. Okay, so with that being said, that's a good segue. So now we had the bot actually create the case in the IRO portal for us, taking that OnBase data or taking that case data from the CureWorks solution and then creating that IRO case within the portal. Now, on the other end, we want to bring that decision over and check the status of the case in the IRO portal to see if the analyst can keep working and work on the case to closure. So within this example, we have a timer that fires however many times per day to go ahead and check on that IRO case in the portal. So we'll check if the case is in the appropriate status. And if it is, again, we're going to trigger that bot just like we did before. That bot's going to launch that browser, go enter in that URL, enter in the credentials. And now the bot's going to be able to find that case number of the IRO. Since we stored the IRO case number in our OnBase case, we have that link. So now we can go find that IRO case via that case number. And then the bot can go ahead and read that status to say, is this case complete? If it is, we're going to be able to store that data, so that decision that the IRO made, and then any documents that the IRO produced, and then bring those data and documents back over to our case within the CureWorks Appeals and Grievance solution. The bot's going to go ahead and update the status to let the analysts know or the end users know that are working in the system that we do have a decision from the IRO, and then also send out a notification to say we have our IRO decision, and we can go ahead and continue working on this case until closure. So with all that being said, going over those two processes, I'm now going to hand it over to Matt, and Matt's going to actually show you how this bot is actually doing this work within that IRO portal.
Thanks, Zach. So with those process flows that we just saw on how we built out this bot, we're going to take a look at what this bot is looking like when it actually runs now. As we start out, as Zach said earlier, we start in OnBase with our appeals and grievance solution. So what we see here is our OnBase case, and we're on the IRO case tab right now. So this is just showing us what information is available to the IRO. Now you notice that everything is blank out here. That's because we actually haven't sent anything to the IRO yet. So in order to do that, the analyst is going to use a task within OnBase to create the IRO case. When they click on Create IRO Case, they are going to be presented with a screen that allows them to enter in additional information. Now, out on this screen, you'll notice that some of these fields look grayed out, and that's because they aren't entered in by the user. So that's data that already exists in the appeals and grievance solution that we're just going to pull forward and use for the IRO case submission as well. In addition to that, though, we have a number of fields out here that the user is going to need to enter in order for the bot to know what data to enter in the portal. So this data out here, and you'll notice there's drop downs along with free text fields. So the drop downs that we use out here, that data is going to match exactly to how that data looks in the portal, to their drop downs in that portal. And the reason that needs to happen is so that the bot is able to determine what to select when it is in the portal. In addition to these fields out here, on the right, you will see that we have 3 filters that are highlighted. We want to call these out because questions, diagnosis, and procedure in the portal could have multiple values to them. So in OnBase, in our case here, we need to allow that as well. So a user could go through and add 3 questions, as we have here on the screen right now. They may want to add 5 or 6 questions. There is no limit to the amount of questions that they are going to submit with that case to the portal. The same is true for diagnosis and procedure. Now, diagnosis and procedure are a little bit more unique than questions because questions are free text that the user can enter, or the analyst can enter. Diagnosis and procedure need to correspond exactly to what that data looks like in the portal. Now, since these are using ICD-10 and ICD-9 for the code types for diagnosis, or for procedure, they use CPT, HCPCS, ICD-10, and ICD-9 as options to select in the portal. We are able to pull that data directly from CMS so that it matches exactly how it's going to look in the portal. So those filters out here, the user doesn't actually type in the values for ICD-10, ICD-9, the code, and the description. They will just select the ones that they actually want to use for this case. Once the user clicks on Submit on this user screen, it is then going to kick off a task for the bot to run. Now, when that bot runs the task, it's going to start off here by opening up a browser. Now, for the purposes of this demonstration, we are showing what the bot is doing, but in a real-world scenario, this bot is running completely on a different machine. It's not running on the user's workstation, it's all behind the scenes. So once that user clicks Submit, that's the last that they're going to see of it until that case is completed. So when the browser is open out here, the first thing that bot's going to do is enter in the username and the password and click Login. Once it clicks Login, you'll see it went pretty quick there. It opened up to the portal's landing page and it selected Submit New Case. I'm going to pause it as I go through so that we can kind of see what's happening. Otherwise, it's going to go faster than I'm able to talk about it and explain what the bot's doing here. So the first thing it's going to do is it's going to enter in the determination level in that dropdown. And after it enters in that determination level, you'll see that the screen scrolled down a little bit, and that's the bot going to the next field that it needs. So it's going to select on, click on Select under Materials here, And when it clicks on select, it's going to open the open window here within Chrome. And you'll see that it's typing ahead to the network location on where we're saving those files that need to be uploaded to this case. Now, what's nice about this is because it was kicked off in OnBase and these files that need to be uploaded to the case in the portal are in OnBase, we're able to export those from OnBase through automation and save those out to a directory here for that case. So you'll see in the URL, it's 14379 here. That's the actual case number for OnBase. So we're able to segregate those files by case when they're exported from OnBase. Now that it's gone out to that network share, we'll see that it has one document out here because there was only one document on this case in OnBase that we needed to export. It's going to select those documents and upload them. And if I pause it again here, we'll see now towards the top of the screen that it does show under file name that document that we just uploaded to this case. I'm going to let it play through the patient section here a little bit because these are those fields again that were on that user screen when we were completing that as an analyst. Once we finish that patient screen, we'll see again it jumps down to the next section that it's looking for. So this next section here is going to be the questions section. So we had 3 questions on the user screen, and the bot is going to go through and cycle through each of those now. And as it clicks add question on the right, it will add that in, save it, and then if there's another question, which there is, it's going to again click add question, add the question, and click save. Once it finishes adding the questions, it is going to go to the next section. So for the bot, that is going to be the review section. As it goes through the review section here, it's again just going to select the drop-down values or enter in the text. And you'll notice that it actually removed my email address and then re-added it. And that's so that it can actually add in the analyst's email address as it was in OnBase. I happen to be the analyst when this case was created out here in the portal. So that's why it just used my email again. We're going to now go to the medical review standards. When we get to medical review standards, you'll see that it actually added the medical policy number field. So when the medical policy checkbox is checked, it will, in the portal, add this additional field so you can enter in the medical policy number. Now the bot is smart enough to know that if that value needs to be checked, that it also needs to enter in the medical policy number. And we're going to see that again here in a second. I'm going to explain it before it happens because it's pretty quick. In the clinical section up here, you'll notice that we only have specialty, procedure, and alternative specialty. So when procedure is entered, we're using an other value for it. That's actually going to trigger this portal to add a whole nother field in here for procedure other, where it's going to be entered in as free text. Again, the bot is smart enough to know that if it uses that option for procedure, that it also has to enter in that other field. And here you see that happen now. So as we continue through, and we're now going to go down to our diagnosis section with the bot. Remember, we had 2 diagnoses that we're adding. So it's going to select add diagnosis code, and then it's going to loop through that data from OnBase to add those into the portal out here. Once it finishes that, it knows that it finished both of them because there's no more data for diagnosis from OnBase. So it's now going to go to the diagnosis description and add that in. The procedure code is going to work the same way. So we had code types and we had codes. The code types correspond in OnBase to the code types in the drop-down list here where you see CPT. The codes are going to be entered into the free text field, very similar to the diagnosis. And then the bot is going to go and select that value to add it to the case. Now, because we had 7 values that were on the case in OnBase, it's going to now loop through all 7 of those values as it goes through. So as the order they are in OnBase is the same order that they're added to the case. And we saw that with the questions, with diagnosis, now with procedure, that the bot is going to follow that same order. Once it finishes adding these procedure codes out here, it's then going to go to procedure requested and enter in that value. As it continues down to the peer-to-peer phone call section, you'll see that it checked the checkbox because it was checked in OnBase, and it's now going to enter in the information for the provider, their phone, and alternate phone number to be contacted. It then quickly clicked on submit, and I paused it real quick here. When it clicks on submit, there's going to be a pop-up that comes up onto the screen. And this pop-up is going to tell you that the submission was a success. So once the case is submitted in this portal, we now see on the screen here, let me bring my mouse over, we see on the screen that we have the case code here. So this is that case code or that case number for the portal. So the bot is going to copy this from the portal now, and it's going to add it to that value in OnBase. So when we finish running this here, we're now going to go back to OnBase, and we're going to stop it from running again here. And okay, let me go forward one slide. There we go. Okay, so now that we're on our slide in OnBase again, so this is what the user will see after the bot finishes running to submit that case. And what we see highlighted up here is the IRO case number. Again, that's copied from the portal that we had just submitted the case in. And we also see the Open IRO Case button. Now, this wasn't here before, and that's because it's only available when there is an IRO case number. This button is what allows the user to log into the IRO directly to this case. So if for any reason they have to go log into that portal to see where the case is, or they want to check and verify something on that case or upload additional documentation to the case, instead of having to log into the portal and then search for the case, we're allowing those users to go directly to that case right through this button. Now, once the case is submitted, Zach had talked previously about timers, being able to kick off bots, or as John had also discussed, emails that are received when a case is completed that could trigger a bot to go and check that case in the portal. So that bot, very similarly to the one that we just seen, starts out with the Google Chrome browser. So once the browser is open, the bot is again going to log into the portal, and I'm going to pause it just in time this time. So instead of clicking on submit new request here, the bot this time is going to click on go to inbox. When it clicks on go to inbox, we are then going to come over to the inbox page. And I'm going to pause it again. We saw right away that it actually added in that case number into the search field right here. So that case number, although we pulled it from the portal previously and stored it into OnBase, we're not using it from the portal. We're now grabbing it again from that case in OnBase because the bot's running a second time here. So when we grab that case number from OnBase, we then click search. When we click search, it's going to refresh our inbox, and we're going to see that case code or that case number is highlighted there. It found our case, and the bot is now going to click view. When the bot views this case now, I'm going to pause it here, we are able to see a few things right away. We're able to see the date due on this case, and we're able to see that the status of this case is completed. Now, because it is completed in this portal specifically, we're able to see the documents for the determination, and we also see that the determination here is marked as approved. So what the bot is doing here is it's going to grab the date due, the case status, and the determination values and store those for later. It's also going to now evaluate that case status value. So if that case status is pending or case preparation, the bot's just going to end here and update the data in OnBase for the date due and the status so that we know where that is when the analyst is in OnBase and looks at the case. However, in this situation, the case is completed. So the bot is now going to go down a different path of logic, just like we saw in the process flow that Zach had shown earlier. The logic that it's going to go down here is it's actually going to open up and save the documents that are needed. So what we're going to save here is the view of the determination for that review, and we're actually going to save the XML. So it's going to copy those URLs right away, and you'll see the right-click menu pop up. It's going to open those, and then when it opens, I'm just going to immediately go into the Save As for these documents. So when I hit play here, we'll see it's going to go out to a network location. The first thing we notice is it's for that same case number in OnBase. The second thing we notice is there's this new folder we're using called completed case documents. So what the bot does is it actually checks to see, hey, have we created this directory before for completed case documents? If it's not, the bot is creating that directory on the network share for us. And that is then going to use this directory to save the documents. Once it gets out to that network share, it's going to go through and update that file name for us. So we want to be able to use a file name that we can find again later when we import these into OnBase. It's now going to go through and do the same thing for that XML document. It's going to save it out to that network share. It's going to update that file name so we can use it again and save it. I'm going to pause it here for a second because everything the bot does after this is completely behind the scenes. So at this point, we've saved some documents from the portal to a network location. We've saved some data from the portal within the bot right now. So the bot's going to actually go through and reconnect to OnBase at this time. It's going to update the data on the case in OnBase, so the date due, the case status, the determination, and it's going to import those documents so they are directly linked to that case in OnBase for the analyst to then look at. It will also update the status on the case so the analyst knows that it's now time to go back in. We received a decision from the IRO. It's now my turn to review that case and complete that case. So I'm gonna pause it here because the bot's gonna keep running on me otherwise and loop through again. We're gonna go to the next slide.
Hey, yeah, Matt, can you pause this video real quick? Another question came through from one of our eagle-eyed attendees, and they noticed final invoice on there, and I'm glad they brought it up. And they said, can we bring that into our AP department for an entirely different workflow? And
Absolutely.
the answer is yes, right?
Yes, 100% yes. So any documents that are on this portal out here, and I brought it back to this page and we're gonna pause it again. So any of these related documents that we see down here, the bot, just like downloading these other documents like the view or the XML, the bot can go and open these documents in the browser and save those as well. Once they're saved to that network location, it's that same process where the bot knows where it's located and it can then import that into a document type in OnBase and relate it and folder it on the case. So they're available. Now, if we do something like that with a final invoice, and it's used for a finance department, for example, that document, when it is uploaded, can trigger off a completely different process flow within OnBase to then send that invoice over to the finance department to be processed.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt. And before you play that last video, we'll actually have Matt play that original video uninterrupted, so you can see, truly how fast these bots run. And while that video is playing, I'll talk about a few things. So,
real quick, Jen, I'm just going to jump over to the last slide to show where that data goes in OnBase from the bot once it's been completed here.
Sure.
So when that last bot finishes running, we were talking about data in OnBase getting updated. So again, we're on that IRO case screen here. We see now that the IRO case status has been updated to completed because that's the value pulled from the portal. Same with the IRO case due date. We have our determination level in here, which is what we submitted originally to the portal, and our IRO determination, which was the determination from the IRO. In this case, it's approved. Now, we're going to go over to that video for you, John, and I'll let that run here.
Yeah, sorry I jumped the gun, Matt. But again, I thought it'd be a good idea to let this video play through again, just to highlight how fast these bots are. And again, with Matt having to stop because it is, it's nice to kind of end on this, right? But at the beginning of the webinar, thing I said is I wanted everyone to challenge themselves to investigate their own process. This was a quick webinar, but I hope it has at least assisted in that capacity, right? We've already talked about system integration, whether it's your system it's integrating with or a system owned and managed by a third party. Think about customer satisfaction, right? Bots they respond faster, they respond immediately, they work 24/7. And to Matt's point earlier of us using the same data sources, so that there's less keyboard interaction, and we know that the source we're picking from the portal is the same one that we're populating in OnBase, right? So we're limiting errors. And then think even more about employee satisfaction, right? So RPA, it's jobs and activities like this that are repetitive and mundane that RPA can alleviate from someone's everyday work, right? And lastly, kind of going along with error reduction, think about standardization, right? So yes, the bot is smart enough, right? But there was some interrogation that was done, and Matt went through and said, hey, when you select this checkbox, what happens to the portal as well, right? And we have to tell the robot, say, hey, you need to think about these things next. But when we're doing that, we're setting up specific paths that these things can go down, and essentially reducing the possibility for errors. So with all of that being said, I want to thank everyone again for attending. And as a reminder, this webinar, as all of them, is being recorded and will be sent out to you within the next few days. As always, please feel free to reach out to myself, Zach, Matt, our RPA guru, or your account manager if you have any questions or you want to talk through any use cases. Talk about an RPA workshop potentially, or anything else. We have one last question, and it said, I may have missed this. What is triggering the bot? Is it on a schedule, or is it a user kicking it off? And I'll actually take this one. It's any and all of the above. So it can be triggered based off of a user click. It can be triggered off of an incoming email, the population of a field, the changing of a field, any and all of the above, as long as we can articulate to the RPA, to the bot itself, what to check for, that can be used as the kicking off point. So again, we left our emails up here. Again, you'll have a recording of this webinar, but I want to thank everyone for attending. Thank Zach and thank Matt as well. And everyone have a wonderful rest of their day.